Good morning. Morning, everybody. Hope you're well. It's good to be together. If you haven't got one, you came in, there's a little red heart that Ava and Beth have been knitting away, crocheting. I don't know what the right word is. They've been doing something with yarn, and they've made a little heart for you. And last week was our Vision and Mission Sunday, and one of the things that we said was we really have a passion for you, for everyone, to be known and loved. Whether you're the youngest in the room or whether you're the oldest in the room, whether you're joining us online, we want everybody to be known and loved. And I hope that little love heart for this, as we move into the sort of February Valentine's season, that little love heart gives you a little reminder as well. And then because we're so sweet, there's also some sweets on your chair, just to let you know that we love you so much. And I'm just going to say, the Lord's put it on my heart this morning that if anybody doesn't want their candy, I will happily take it off your hands. So, I just feel like it's my duty to be careful. If anyone can't handle too much sugar, I will happily have it for you. So, it's just me being kind this morning. No, cool. Hey, just silliness aside, it's so great to be together, and we're going to just move into a time of singing and worship together. Kevin and the team will be leading us. And if you're able to stand, please stand and participate and join in with us. If you don't know the songs and if this is your first Sunday here, feel free to just sit however, read the words that come up on screen, and we just think it's absolutely amazing to be able to love Jesus because he's loved us, and that's why we're standing and celebrating and singing. So if you're able to, please stand, and over to you guys. Thank you.
When you breathe, the dead arise. These bones come back to life. There is power in this room. Do what only you can do. With one word, the mountains move. When you breathe, the dead arise. These bones come back to life. There is power in this room. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's life. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Like a river running wild, like a never-ending fire. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, it's your name that says that. Every enemy before. So we will stand and we will fight. Every wrong will be made right. There is power in this room. Oh, I believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's life. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Like a river running wild, like a never-ending fire. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's life. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Like a river running wild, like a never-ending fire. Where the Spirit of the Lord is. Through our cities, your Spirit fills our streets. We're shouting to the nations, your love has set us free. You're moving through our cities, your Spirit fills our streets. We're shouting to the nations, your love has set us free. You're moving through our cities, your Spirit fills our streets. We're shouting to the nations, your love has set us free. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's life. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Like a river running wild, like a never-ending fire. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, stood before creation, eternity in your hand. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul held to stand. You stood before my failure and carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders, my soul held to stand. So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? So I won't propose salvation. Your spirit alive in me is right to declare your promise. My soul now is to stand. So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? So what can I say? So what can I say? And what can I do last week when we spoke about your awesomeness, Lord. And we talked about your awesomeness in power, your awesomeness in provision. But Lord, you're also awesome in your holiness and in your justice and in your humbleness. And Lord, that holiness demands such a high price, Lord. And you're prepared to pay that price for us. So what can we say? We can say thank you. We can say thank you for what you've done for us. Thank you for paying the price for us. Still shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, line you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, line you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, line you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. The overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Praise you, Lord. Praise your name. Thank you, Lord. Praise your name. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for all you give to us. Thank you, you paid the price for us.
Don't you just love the fact that your God doesn't look at you and go, but he actually chases after you. Such is his passion for you, his overwhelming love. I'm often in awe of that. I'd rather be chased by God, chased by him and caught by him, and allow him to heal me, set me free, sort me out, sit me on his lap and chat with me and say, look, Gail, this Gail. Oh, the love of God is so amazing.
Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Thank you, guys. I don't know where you stand in your position on faith or church and things like that, but the love of God is life-changing, it's transforming. And our passion, our vision is to help inspire people to find and follow Jesus. We don't stand as experts. We stand as people who have been changed by the radical love of God. And I hope that that's something that you could experience, and maybe you haven't yet experienced it in your life, but we would love to journey with you and want you to experience it more and more. And the crazy thing about God's love is he just doesn't stop. He just pours it out and pours it out and pours it out. And maybe you feel far from faith or far from God, and we just want you to know how much he loves you. And as best as we can put it into words, we want you to know that you're loved, that you're known and loved by God. So, yeah, thank you so much for leading us this morning, you guys. A couple of really quick updates. So yesterday we had a men's breakfast, totally cool, about 20 of us having a good fry up, an excuse to have some grease and carbohydrates. But anyway, this Thursday, so you ladies don't feel left out, we've got a ladies' night at Cultivo Lounge. So yeah, so yeah, everyone, anybody, welcome. You don't have to book in, just show up. So this Thursday night at Cultivo Lounge, just in the Letchworth High Street there, it's from 7:30 p.m. So come along, bring a friend, show up. You could be here. This is your first Sunday here. This is your 150th Sunday here. Everybody's welcome. Come along this Thursday, Cultivo Lounge, 7:30. It's a really great way just to get to know people a bit more. There's no agenda. It's just hang out. So spend some time together and hang out. Hopefully, if you've got children at home, with it being the February half term, that will be a very nice break in the middle of a week. So you'll be like, yes, okay, so put in your diaries now and make sure that people know that you are leaving the house on Thursday evening. Tell your other half it's at 6:30, so and just walk really, really slowly. No, cool. 7:30 this Thursday at Cultivo Lounge. And also in 2 Sundays' time, so the last Sunday in February, we're going to do a church lunch. So what a church lunch is hey, just stick around afterwards. We're going to have a slightly shorter service on that morning, and just stick around afterwards and just have lunch together. So it's not provided, so bring something with you, or run up to the high street and grab a sandwich from Greg's or something. We're just going to hang out together. Opportunity. If you're around, if you're able to do it, be again just an opportunity for people to get to know one another and to spend a little bit of time together. So if you can do that, 2 Sundays time, we are having a little church lunch together, because we believe not only is it important to learn to love Jesus, it's actually important to learn to love one another. And until we get to learn to know one another, it's very hard to love one another in real life. So get to know each other, hang out, spend some time together. So let's make it happen. So two Sundays, church lunch. Just finally, before we go into a break and release our amazing superstars and teenagers, I just want to tell you a little story. And this is a true story. This is not made up. This is a true story. We got this message a couple weeks ago, just saying, from a parent whose child goes across the street and spends time with those amazing people who look after our younger people. And they said to them, I just want you to know that my child, who struggles sometimes with anxiety, has loved being in the room now. And in fact, sometimes they don't want to leave, which is new for us. So thank you. Thank you. And I don't need to tell you who it is, but what I want you to know is you're part of it. Because for those of us who believe in investing in the future and giving of an offering and believe in making spaces and making environments for people to be known and loved, you played a part in that story. You played a part in changing that little child's life. Because we all know, as you grow up, facing anxiety is something that a lot of us have had to deal with and will have to deal with. And how amazing that a young child can begin to learn at that age that there is a place where I don't have to feel anxious because somebody loves me and cares for me enough to know my name, enough to know when my birthday is, enough to make provisions for me, enough to give of their time to do something for me and make me feel safe, and I don't have to pass a test, and I didn't have to do any spelling grades, and I didn't have to do anything. I can just be me, and I can be loved. Now that is one incredible opportunity to invest in the life of somebody and let them know that they do not have to be anxious, because there is a place that exists where they are known and loved. So thank you. Thank you so much for playing a part in that. So if any of you guys give financially, we're going to, as we do a break, there's a place at the back. And if you want to help be part of that, you can give. You can donate and invest in the mission. You can do it through card. You can do it online. And no pressure, no obligation. But the big picture is this is why we do what we do. We want to see lives changed and hearts transformed and everybody to know that they are known and loved. So thank you so much for having a part in that. And as I say, just at the back there is the opportunity for you to give, drop the cash in or pay by card, plenty of options. And if you're watching online, you can also give online as well. So now we're going to have a short break, about 8 minutes. Grab another drink, grab another coffee, take your kiddos across the street. Youth is starting a new series in a small group. And yeah, have an awesome time. See you soon. some of those classic love songs. And if you haven't noticed already, if you haven't been to a shop in the last sort of 10 days, you can be forgiven for not seeing all the roses that are everywhere and all of the pink and red things and all the stuff they're trying to make you buy because it's Valentine's Day. So if you forgot, this was your healthy courtesy public service announcement reminder. So fellas, not looking at anybody in particular, but make sure you haven't forgotten. But we're going to do a brand new series. We're doing this month of February. We just thought, we're going to do a series looking at love and the love of God, and just asking that question, like, what's love got to do with it? And really, the answer is everything. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll just sort of jump in and have a few, just dive in and look at what love is. And I get to kick it off, and I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to tell you a story. And this story is a true story, and this story happened before any of us were alive, before any of us were in the room, before any of us, even existed a very long time ago. And what happened was, this story itself is actually found in the Bible. And the story, the book of the Bible, if you don't know what the Bible is a collection of books. It's like a mini library. It's not just one book. It's all put together, but it's put together as one book, if you like. But there's 66 different books written over thousands of years. And then they were put together after Jesus had already died and risen from the dead and left this earth. It was put together, and that's how the Bible itself was put together. We're going to be looking at that in a couple months. We're doing a series on the story of the book, if you like. But the Bible is one arching narrative, if you like, and all these books have got one big story in it. And the one big story is bigger than if you've heard of these characters. Maybe you've grown up in a church, maybe you haven't, but you still might have heard of some of these names. People like Adam and Eve and Noah and the ark, and this guy named David, and a giant called Goliath. And you might have heard some of these stories, Moses and Pharaoh, and you might have heard about some of these people, and you might have heard of Esther and the queen, and you might have heard some of these characters. But this story I'm going to tell you is bigger than all of their stories. It's bigger than all of the individuals' stories that are in there, because there's one great story woven through the entire 66 books. There's one big story, if you like. And a lady named Sally Lloyd Jones writes about it like this. I'm going to read the quote to you. And she says this. She says, maybe you feel or have the idea that the Bible is basically a book of rules, telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Tells you how to behave. And the Bible certainly does contain some rules in it, and they do help you live a better life. But the book of the Bible isn't a book of rules. That's not what it's mainly about. It isn't mainly about what you should be doing. It's more about what he has done. Some people also think that the book of the Bible is just a book of heroes, showing you the people that you should be like. And there's lots of cool people in there. But most of the people in the Bible are not actually heroes. They make mistakes. They get afraid. They run away. They hurt others. And sometimes they did it on purpose. The Bible is not a book of heroes. And she carries on and she says this. She said, the Bible is not a book of rules or heroes. Most of all, it is an adventure story about a brave young prince who gives up everything, his palace, his throne, his life, all to rescue the one he loves. The main story of the Bible. And maybe you're new to Christianity, or maybe you've been around church for a long time, but it's important to know that the one story is about the one prince who gives everything for the one that he loves. That's the main story. But then it gets you thinking, like, okay, if he's come to rescue, so if he's the prince and he's the hero, he's come to rescue, like, what are you being rescued from? And then the book of the Bible carries on. It gives us sort of an understanding, a perspective about what he's come to rescue us from. It tells this story, you might have heard of it before, Adam and Eve, who were created by God and put into this garden. And maybe you believe that story is literal and that's exactly how it happened. And maybe you don't believe it's exactly how it happened. But for the point of the story, it's actually not relevant. It's not a story necessarily about how everything began. It's a story about how God's heart was and is for people. And he puts these people in this garden. And he tells them, the whole place is yours. You've got the whole place. Just imagine having all of that space that you can explore and, tend. And they're given authority. They're given permission, if you like, to work the ground, to kind of make it their own. They're not just, they're not just sitting there doing nothing. They're actually empowered to make their own decisions. They're given the right to work the space. And then they get given one instruction. And out of all the space, you can have everything. But there's one thing, just one thing I'd like you not to do. There's a tree here. Please don't eat from this tree. You can have everything. But the one thing, don't eat from the tree. Now, if you've got children, if you've got little kids, or have you ever sort of like gone somewhere? I remember this, like when we went places and I was younger. Like, man, my parents gave me way more than just one rule. Yeah? He's like, sit there, be quiet, Like, whatever they serve you, just say, you're going over to someone's house that you've not been to before, and it's like, whatever they serve you, just be grateful. Don't pull any funny faces when you see the food, Like, just be polite. Say, yes, ma'am. Say, yes, sir. No, ma'am. No, sir. Say all this kind of stuff. Make sure you try to at least taste the food. If you don't like it, at least taste it. Don't touch anything, like leave the little, and then I don't know if you remember this, maybe you've done this yourself as a parent. You're sitting there as a child and like, you're just so fidgety and and then like you catch the eye, right? And you're like, You just know you're not supposed to be doing what it is that you're basically wanting to just do. And there's like so many rules. But then these guys, Adam and Eve, were only given one rule, one instruction. In fact, it's so heavily weighted on free reign. And don't just do the one thing. Just leave the one tree alone. But you can have everything. All of it's yours. Make the garden how you will. It's all yours. In fact, fill the whole earth. It's all yours. At the beginning, God's heart, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Maybe you thought God was all about telling you what you shouldn't do or can't do. But man, it all started off with God saying, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. And maybe you've never had that perception of God in your life. It's pretty crazy. The one thing you don't do, though, is just eat from the tree. Which kind of makes you wonder, why would you even give them that choice? Why would you give them that opportunity? Essentially, it's because God didn't want robots. We are given as humankind the opportunity and ability and the power to make our own choices. And if God created humanity and gave them no choice, what kind of relationship is that? Just imagine I don't know, having to do something because you're forced to do something, not because you chose to do it or want to do it. It's not a nice feeling, is it? Whatever it is. And yet God creates humanity. Whether you believe this is just an allegorical story or however it is written to help us understand what God is like. God is giving us the free reign, and he says, I want you to make your decisions. I trust you to make your own choices. And so they have the one tree that they have to avoid. They give it the one thing. You might know how this story goes. And even if you've never heard this story before, you probably know how it goes. Because when we are told the one thing that we can't do, it's usually the one thing that we do, right? So yeah, anyway, they then ate from that one tree. And they saw the garden and everything they were allowed to have, but they believed a lie. They believed a lie that said, God, why are you holding back on me? Don't you love me? Don't you really think I should be happy? Don't you really think I should have everything I want? Do you really care about me anyway? Do you really, really care about me? And they believe a lie that God is not enough and that God is not complete enough to make them complete. They think he's holding out, that he's somehow keeping them back and restricted from something. And they believed it. And God knew that if they ate from that tree, they would believe the lie. Sort of symbolically, they take the fruit and they eat it. And when you eat something, it goes inside you. And it's like the lie goes inside. It seeps in like a poison. And the Bible just explains that this is where everything started to go wrong with everything in the world. When we believed that God wasn't enough. When we believed we could do it our own way. When we believed that he was unkind and unjust and didn't want to really look out for us. This is what the Bible explains is basically what's wrong with everything in the world. And this lie seeps into their heart. And they did more than just break a rule and break an instruction. They actually broke a relationship because they broke God's heart. They betrayed trust. Something happens, and this is true. You don't even have to be a follower of Jesus to know this is true. When something happens in your life, when somebody has broken trust or done something that wasn't right, it damages the relationship, doesn't it? You know that's true, and this is what happens in this case. It damages the relationship, and there was a break in the relationship between God's wonderful creation and the Creator. There was a break in the relationship, and everything was supposed to live and last forever, if you like. But the Bible explains it like this is when sickness and death seeped into the world. This is how it explains it.
Broken relationships, sickness in relationships, sickness in how we feel about ourselves, sickness in all of our understanding. This is how it explains it from a biblical perspective, if you like. And this poison, if you like, has another word. Another word that this is used for this poison is this word sin. And it's not like a popular word. We're not supposed to talk about it in modern churches, so just forget I said it. But anyway, it's called sin. And this poison seeps in, and it's called sin. Now, you might think, oh, that's kind of a not very comfortable word. But it's true. Because when people mistreat you, it breaks relationships. It's a poison that hurts people. We just have to look around the world. You have to turn on the news, read your news feed, and there's people all around the world that still continue to hurt, mistreat, and abuse one another. Even though we have the opportunity to do good, we choose to do what wasn't good. It's just humanity. You know that this is true. And the story goes on, and it basically explains to us that no matter how hard we try, we can't cover it up. No matter how much we scrub, you can't sort of wash this poison off, if you like. No matter how hard you try to appear good or appear that you've done things well. Maybe you try to never say a harsh word, or you always go to bed on time, or you always eat your broccoli, or whatever it is. You always do the right thing at the right time. And even if you try to do all the right things in the right way at the right time, it still doesn't deal with the poison. So it's still there. It's still residing in our hearts, because all humanity has been infected and affected by this poison. You can ignore it. You can stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not there. You can actually justify all of your behaviors. You can justify everything that we do and call it right and call it good and say, I'm not hurting anybody. It's not a problem, no harm, no foul. We can call it those things. It still doesn't mean that the poison doesn't exist. It's still there. No matter what we call it, whether we ignore it or face it head on, it's still there. We can't actually deal with it. This is essentially the narrative of the Bible, the story of the Bible. This is how it explains that everything is wrong, what's wrong with everything, if you like. This is how it explains it. And if there's no way to get rid of the poison, then what's the point trying anyway, right? What's the hope? If there's no way to do it. So therefore, to deal with the problem so big and so epic that it affects everyone, everywhere, there has to be a big plan that can deal with everyone, everywhere. Because if the poison is a global problem, a global pandemic, we need a global solution. It can't just be for a certain person or a certain type of person or certain people group. The solution has to be for everyone if the problem affects everyone. Now imagine just for a moment that you and I were a God, that we were the ones that created this world and did all of this stuff, that we were the ones that, I don't know how you do it. Maybe you magically rub your hands and sprinkle some dust. Maybe you do like the sort of Nordic mythology and spit into a bowl and can create people that way. I don't know. Maybe Greek or Roman. Choose your creation mythologies. How do you do it as if you were a god? Or maybe you just like click your fingers or just create an avatar and click enter on the keyboards. I don't know how you do it. But if you were a god and you created this environment, you created this world, and you can see the way everybody is messing up what you created. And you can see that you gave them opportunities you gave them the choice to choose right things, and that they chose to hurt one another. You give them the choice to care for one another and love one another, and yet people still continue to abuse and mistreat one another. You give them the opportunity to earn wealth and make better lives for themselves, and they just use it for corruption. It's like, come on, every opportunity I'm giving you, you actually just seem to twist it and turn it into something else. So if you were God and this is what was happening with the people that you created, what would you do? If you gave them freedom and they abused it, what would you do? What do you do as a parent? What did your parents do to you? What did your school teachers do to you? They gave you some freedom and you abused it. What happens? You got a detention, right? You get punished. If you and I were a God, you know, we would know what we would do. I think we'd make them pay, wouldn't we? When we tell them off, slap them upside the head, shake them a bit, you know, get your, I don't know, mythical super duper gun thing and destroy the lot and start over. I mean, what would you do if you were a God? If you were a God and these were what the people that you created were doing, what would you do? Probably the same thing you do when people mistreat you. You'd want to destroy them, tell them off, you know? I mean, what a failure of an experiment, right? God has this wonderful idea. I know what, I'll put these two people in a perfect little garden and they're going to have everything they want and it's going to be all this, it's going to be paradise and it'll be so lovely. It gives them this wonderful thing. And they just blow it out of the water. They destroy the whole lot. I mean, what a failure of an experiment, right? If you think about it. So if I was a God and that's what happened, done with, get rid. And the Bible tells us there's a different plan. There's a bigger story. God had a different plan. God had a different idea because he wanted to get his children back. He wanted to rescue the ones that were lost, the ones that were stuck believing a lie, that he wasn't good, that he wasn't enough, that he wasn't loving, that he wasn't kind, that he wasn't caring, that he held back from giving them all that they wanted. He wanted to rescue them and draw them back and undo the poison of the lie. But it's weird. Like, why would he even bother? Right? I mean, would you even bother? If we were a God, would you bother? Would you even bother? It's weird because no matter how much the poison was spreading and infecting more people all around the world, no matter how far it was going, God was not stopping loving. He was carrying on loving with an unshakable, unstoppable, crazy, wild, always and forever love. And no matter how far his children would wander, no matter how far they would mistreat him, no matter how far they would walk away, he was still loving with a never-stopping, never-ending, unbreakable, crazy, wild, tenacious, ferocious, I'm never going to give up on you kind of love, which is mad. And God has this plan. He's going to deal with the poison once and for all. Because he knows it's not about behavior. It's not about behavior. And you know this is true. Because if you have children, or maybe you did this yourself, it's not about just behaving properly and doing the right thing in the right environment. Because we all know how to behave when we're in the classroom, and we know how to behave when we're in the playground. We behave differently in different settings because we're able to do that. We're very easy to do that. We're chameleons, aren't we? Maybe we can do it in church. We behave differently here than we would do elsewhere, or with friends, or on a night out, or girls' night. Whatever we do, we behave differently. We're able to change coats quite quickly. So the issue, and you know this, is not about our behavior, because our behavior is a coat that we can change. And God's going to say he's got a rescue plan, and it's not about dealing with the behavior. It's got to be something different. It's got to be something more. I've actually got to deal with the poison. I have to deal with this poison that seeped in, this poisonous lie that seeped in. I've got to deal with that, because that's what corrupts the heart. And everything comes out of the heart. I'm actually not interested in your behavior. I'm more interested in your heart, because once your heart changes, your behavior changes. So God has this crazy, crazy, daring rescue plan. He's going to come up with an antidote to this poison. And like all good prescriptions, if your doctor gives you a prescription, it's no good if you don't take it. Yeah, they could tell you, I'm sorry, this is what you've got. You've got high blood pressure. Here's the tablets you need to take, and you leave them on the shelf. Do you know what's going to happen next time you go to the doctor? You still got high blood pressure. Okay. If you've been diagnosed with something and your doctor gives you a prescription, you got to take it. And so Jesus says, I'm going to come up with a prescription. I've got an antidote for this poison, but I don't violate people's free will. I'm going to let them choose it. But there's going to be a way to get rid of the poison. This is his great plan. This is his great idea. Okay? He comes up with a daring rescue mission. And to be honest, you probably haven't ever heard this said in a church before. It's one of the stupidest, reckless, and most foolish plans ever. You know how to get people back in line, don't you? You shout at them. Everyone been on a sports team? You're going the wrong way on the pitch. What does your coach do? He shouts at you. She shouts at you because you're going the wrong way. You know, somebody's driving the wrong way in traffic. What do people do? Honk their horns, flash their lights, shout at them. You make a bunch of noise. And if, maybe they get punished, they get berated, they get belittled, they get told off, they get mocked, they get told off. That's what you do with people who are going the wrong way. You correct it. You take that dent in the side of that car panel and you beat it until the dent is out. That's the way you deal with something that's wrong. You panel beat it. You beat it. And maybe you had that experience in life. Maybe you had a parent or someone in your life who thought the best way to get you to behave is basically to beat you into shape. And I'm sorry if that was maybe your experience. And maybe you know this is true because in your own heart you know that in spite of all the beatings, it actually did nothing to change what was going on in here. In fact, it might have even made you hate them even more. But this is how we try to fix things, don't we? But God has this stupid plan, this totally reckless plan. And instead of sending in a warrior or a CEO or somebody to fix the lot, he sends a helpless baby. Instead of sending in somebody who can reorganize the whole system, redo the structure, do some business realignment, fire the middle management, get a new CEO in place, rather than sending in some massive military commander who can whip us into shape, he does the dumbest thing and he sends a baby, a helpless baby who can do nothing. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only CEO, right? He gave his one and only apprentice. He gave his one and only Jedi master. He gave his one and only, mighty warrior. He gave his one and only son. He gave his one and only son that whoever, everyone chooses, whoever chooses to believe, because you have a choice, whoever chooses to believe in him will not die, but have an everlasting life. And I didn't send my son into the world. God didn't send his son into the world to condemn the world, which means destroy, punish, get rid of, wipe out, condemn the world, to say enough is enough, that's it, I've had no more with you. He didn't send his son into the world to condemn it, but to rescue it, to rescue the world. And if you and I were a God that could see the global problem, which in spite of humanity's best efforts to get rid of it, they're still stuck in it, we really wouldn't send a baby. Just wouldn't do it, would we? It's a dumb plan, y'all. Let's be honest. Let's think about it. It's a dumb plan. And maybe that's the most refreshing thing you've ever heard, because you're new to Christianity, you're new to faith, and you think, why do people believe this stuff? Because it's dumb. I've just told you, it's a dumb plan. Why would you send a baby? It's a dumb plan, right? Come on. It's a dumb plan. Isn't it? Too many of you looking at me thinking, why have you said that? But logically it is. Okay? People who don't know Jesus yet or are new to faith understand what I'm saying. That is a dumb plan, okay? It's a silly plan. And he does it. He sends this plan. It's just mad. It's foolish. That's all I can say. And then when Jesus arrives, it's like he didn't read the manual about how you're supposed to treat people, because for some reason he treated people that shouldn't have been treated well. He treated them well. People who were outsiders, he allowed them to be insiders. People who weren't doing the right things, he allowed them to be friends with him. And it really messed up everybody's idea of what religion and what God was supposed to be like. It just messed everything up. It's like he just didn't really get it. There's people that you should avoid in life and not hang out with, but he just did the opposite. He seemed to hang out with those kind of people and spent more time with those kind of people. And people who were nothing like Jesus seemed to like to be around Jesus. And the ones who should have been looking for it and realized who he was didn't like what he was doing and wanted to get rid of him. Like the whole thing was, crazy. And I don't know. Everyone was invited, and he invites people to experience what he's got on offer. And everyone was welcome. It's crazy. So how is he going to fix everything? Okay, so now we've done this. Okay, you've seen your plan, and you're growing up, and your boy's not really doing the social stuff right either. It's just like a failure of a plan, isn't it? If you're going to gather the people to make the big change, to get rid of all this poison, you don't pick the outcasts, you don't pick the widows, you don't pick the infirm, you don't pick the people that society's already said are unclean, unwanted, and unlovely. You don't pick those people. Man, come on. We all know this is true. If we're going to have a plan, you're going to get the best of the best to do it. You don't pick the worst of the worst. It's like the whole plan is just silly. Okay? And sometimes people do silly things for love. So he gathers the wrong kind of people. And he's figuring out, how is he going to explain it to them? And he does it in this way. They're getting together, and they're going to have a meal together. It's called the Passover meal. And it's something that they did as part of the rhythm. And for the Jewish people, they remembered that they used to be slaves in Egypt. And then Moses helped rescue them, and they are no longer slaves in Egypt. And they're having this meal together. And Jesus has this idea. He's like, I know what. I'm going to help explain to them what the plan is, what my great rescue plan is going to be. And what he does is he's sitting there, and they're getting ready to sort of have their meal together. And he says it to them like this. He wants to help them understand in a visual way. And so he says to them, because they're eating together. They're celebrating something to do with Moses, but he's going to change it entirely for them. It's not to do with the slaves in Egypt anymore. It's not to do with you being the people 2,500 years ago when Moses came and rescued you. I'm gonna make it a little bit more applicable. I'm gonna bring it up to date for you. It's no longer something in the past. It's gonna be something in the present. It's not something you remember. It's gonna be something that you live. And then this is what he does. He says, take the bread. This bread that we've got here on the table. Think of it like this. If this bread was my body, I'm going to be broken so you can be healed. I'm going to be torn apart so that which was damaged can be restored. It's like he wants them to understand, and he's trying to help them understand that he's going to take what they know, and I'm going to repair everything that's wrong with the world. And then he takes some of the wine, and he's like, think of it like this, they're at the table, and he takes it, and he's like, this would be like my blood. I don't know how else to help you understand, but my life is going to be poured out for you. My life is going to be poured out for you. Can you understand what I'm trying to do? I will die so you can live. That's my plan. I'm going to die so you don't live in the past, that you live in the future. You keep looking back and thinking about, we were slaves in Egypt, and guess what happened 2,500 years ago? I don't want you to live in the past. I want you to live in today, the now, the today, which is no longer then, but which is now. This is how I'm trying to help you understand. This is my great rescue plan. I will die so you can live. And my life will be broken. My body will break and be torn, and my blood will be poured out for you. For you. And Jesus is going to take the punishment for everything. For everything. He's going to take it all. But he had done nothing wrong. He's going to take the punishment for everything, but he had done nothing. That sounds like a foolish plan to me. Sometimes fools, when they're in love, do crazy things. They do, don't they? And later that night, Jesus is betrayed by one of the friends that he just tried to explain it to. He gets arrested, and he gets dragged before court. He gets beaten and tortured and smack him around. And then eventually he's put on a cross. He's there, and they're going to kill him, and they put him to death. And this is why it's such a foolish plan, because it obviously is failing. Great ideas, guys. I'm telling you this in a little room, and then he gets publicly put to death. Publicly put to death. It's like, that just would be like, I don't know, weird, isn't it? It's like it's the most public failure ever. Over. End of. Mission done. Leader killed. Followers, routed. Like, he's finished it. He's done it. He failed. He's dead. The movement's over. It just seems like such a dumb plan. It does seem like a dumb plan to us, a foolish plan. And there he is, being mistreated and abused, and people are making fun of him, and they are mocking him, and they're saying, do this for us, do this. And yet he just takes it. He just takes it. And the thing is, if anyone treated you that way, what would you do to them? If anyone treated you the way we treat Jesus, what would you do to them? If you got people that write books about how God is such a blight on society and our grand God delusion and how this has ruined everything in our lives. People write books about how you don't even exist, and people have university lectures and places you can go to basically arm yourselves with the evidence about how this person who came to love is basically horrible and unkind. If people treated you that way, if people talked about you that way, if people slandered you that way, if people mocked you that way, if people took what you offered to them, and if people treated that way, what would you do? If people treated you that way, you would not take it. If you got children and they're disrespectful to you, what do? Take it? No. That doesn't happen in my house. Hopefully. Think about it. If people disrespected you and mocked you and mistreated you the way that people mistreat Jesus, would you still love them? Man, sometimes when you're in love, fools do crazy things. Jesus loving in spite, and he just takes it. And if there ever was a moment for him to prove himself, that's the moment, wasn't it? He could have ripped himself off that cross, and we've talked about this before, haven't we? This was the moment he could have just shown his muscles and said, this is it, I'm here. That could have shut up all those critics once and for all. But he didn't. Because his grand plan was for his body to be broken, so that which is broken could be healed, and his love and his life to be poured out. That was his plan. He was going to give it all. He wasn't going to stop. It wasn't going to stop when it got uncomfortable. It wasn't going to stop when it got painful. It wasn't going to stop when he didn't want to carry through. He wasn't going to stop when he's being mistreated and misunderstood and misjudged. He wasn't going to stop in all of that. He was going to carry on because he was going to go all the way. He was going to give everything, very to his last breath, everything. Because when you're in love, you do crazy, foolish things. You go further than people think you should go when you're in love. You just carry on. And he takes it. He takes it all. He takes the abuse. He takes the spit. He takes the arguments. He takes the hate. He takes the vengeance. He takes the fists. He takes the spears. He takes the whip. He takes it. And the King of the universe bows his head, and he takes a crown of thorns. The giver of love and life to the world reaches his arms out, and he takes the nails, and he takes the spear to his side. He gives, and he gives himself away. And he takes it. He takes everything that we throw at him. And he takes the stuff that we can't even see. He takes the brokenness. He takes the shame. He takes the pride. He takes the lust. He takes everything that we can't even see, but because he takes everything that was ever wrong with the world, he's going to take all of the poison, all of it. He's going to take it all in one go, and he's going to take all the poison down to the last drop. He's taking it all. He's taking everything that has ever been wrong, that anyone has ever done wrong and will ever do wrong. He's taking it all. All. He's going all the way. Because when you're in love, you do foolish things. He's going to take it all. He takes everything that was broken with the world, everything. And he takes it for anyone, and he takes it for everyone. He takes it for anyone and everyone who would choose to believe and put their trust in me. And God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that anyone and everyone who chooses to believe would have part of this everlasting life. You'd have a life that's never going to stop, basically. Paul writes about it like this to a group of people in Romans, and he says it like this. He says, Christ arrives right on time to make this happen. He actually didn't, and he doesn't wait for us to get ready. He doesn't wait for you to perform and get yourself behaving properly. He gave himself in death when we were too weak and too rebellious to do anything for ourselves. And even if we actually hadn't been so weak, let's be honest, we wouldn't really have known what to do anyway. And then he carries on. He says, we can understand the idea of somebody dying for somebody. That's worth dying for. Yeah, of course we can understand how someone good and noble can inspire us to selfless sacrifice. But God put his love on the line for us by offering his Son in death when we were of no use whatsoever to him. Paul's essentially saying this whole plan doesn't even make sense. We can understand it if you die for somebody who's worth dying for. Well, why would you die for somebody who's too weak and too stupid and too self-absorbed and too arrogant and too disinterested to even care what you're doing? Why would you die for them? That's what Paul's saying. Why? He's just like, it's crazy. It's such a foolish plan, if you like. God doesn't wait for you to get cleaned up first, to make yourself presentable, to become his friend. Paul's saying that he paid the price for us, paid the price for you, even before we figured it out. It's pretty cool, actually. He didn't wait for you to get cleaned up. He didn't wait for you to detox. He didn't wait for you to figure out the right thing to wear and the right words to say. He didn't wait for any of that stuff. He didn't wait for you to get your life sorted and everything fixed in life. He didn't wait for you to read the Bible and know how it all works. He didn't wait for you to prove yourself. He didn't expect you to earn it. He didn't expect you to prove yourself. He gave himself before we did anything worthwhile. Because it's not about us proving ourselves, and it's never about you having to earn his love. Just gives it away. Paul writes this in Corinthians. He says this. He says, the whole message of the cross is foolishness. It seems foolish. It's foolishness to those who are dying. We don't understand it. But to those who are being saved, it's the power of God. He's saying, like, whoever believes in me will not die, but have everlasting life. From the outside, this is such a dumb plan. This is such a stupid plan. This is such a foolish plan. It doesn't really make sense in the logical sense of the way things work. And to us, it can seem totally foolish. And Paul says, yes, the cross itself actually does seem way foolish. It doesn't make sense. And if you're perishing and you're dying and you think, I don't want any part of that, it is foolishness to you. But when you realize the other side of the story and you take it by faith that, wow, this is what Jesus was doing and this is what he did for me, all of a sudden, it's not foolishness. It's actually the power of God rescuing you, saving you. He carries on and he says, the foolishness of God is wiser than all of humanity's wisdom. And when you're in love, you sometimes do foolish things. Nobody was more foolish than Jesus. He gave himself away, not knowing if anybody would even understand it, accept it, or reciprocate. He just gave himself away. And we're going to close now. We're going to have a time of communion as a reminder of what Jesus has done. You know, and the thing is, when everyone else says stop, give up on them, write them off, don't care about them anymore, Jesus just keeps going. He doesn't stop loving. When we mistreat him and abuse him, he doesn't stop loving. When we get it wrong and make mistakes, sometimes by accident and sometimes on purpose, he doesn't stop loving us. When we feel unworthy and unloved and undeserving, he doesn't stop. He keeps loving. And when we slip into habits of trying to perform for him to earn our love, he still keeps loving. We get it wrong and he still keeps loving. And he will never stop loving you. He will never stop loving me. He will never stop loving us. He cannot stop. He will not stop. He will never stop. And as we get ready to do the communion, there's this verse that Paul writes to the Ephesians, and he just says, I really hope, I pray, I long that you may have the strength to just understand. I hope that over the next few weeks and today and this idea of where we look at the love of God and how it affects everything, I just pray that we can grasp, we can understand how wide and how long and how high and how deep is the love of God. And to know that this love, it defies logic. But may you be filled with the fullness of God. Paul writes, he just says, I hope that we can grasp and understand. And I hope today that we can all grasp and understand a bit of the love of God. We're going to play the worship song that Kevin led at the end. We're going to play that while we break the communion. And if this is your first time here, everyone is welcome at the table. Because Jesus did communion and he broke the bread and he poured out his life and he shared it with his friends and they didn't understand what was going on. And we want everybody to know that this moment is a powerful moment. You don't have to perform or earn it. You just have to receive it. You just have to accept it, that Jesus has given his life for you. And maybe you're not yet a follower of Jesus, and I'd love to talk with you and pray with you. And this is what Jesus does. He says, come to the table. It's an open offer. I've prepared a place for you. It's for you. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to earn it. It's for you. So just to be clear, we let and invite everyone to come and experience the table. And it's juice there. And just to make clear, there's gluten-free bread in the little bowl as well. So yeah, could I pray and then we'll put that song on, please? Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just your incredible, surprising, astounding, reckless, wild love. God, thank you so much. And we can't even understand it. It's such a strange, foolish, crazy thing. But all of a sudden, when we do begin to glimpse and grasp what it is you did, all of a sudden our hearts are full. God, we begin to realize how wide and how high and how long and how deep your love is. Wow. Thank you, God, for everything that you've given for us. God, I just pray for everybody here, whether they're here in the room this morning or for watching online later, God, that you just be with each person. Let them know how much they are loved by you. In your name we pray. Amen. Just while the song's playing, feel free to come forward at your own timing and have some of the bread and the juice there. Pray you have an amazing week, whatever you've got going on. And every time you have a bit of bread this week, you just remember again the one who gave everything for you, who is fighting for you. And you might not even believe in Jesus yet, but you've got somebody who's fighting for you. You might have loved ones in your life, children or family members, spouses that don't believe in Jesus. But just know that he is on their case. There is someone fighting for them. And whatever lie they built, whatever wall they built, he's working to break it down because he's pursuing their hearts. So be encouraged to know that God loves you. He loves everyone in your life. Have an amazing, amazing week. We're going to carry on with this theme in the next couple of weeks. So see you again. Cheers.